Welcome to the CUA conference. I'm going to introduce your first presenter today. You may have heard of this presenter before. This is going to be Eric Schaffer. He's been in the UX field since 1977, leading experience engineering teams in the US, India, Africa, Singapore, Hong Kong, and China. Eric is an innovator in UX for banking, insurance, telephony, medical, e-commerce, heavy industry, and government. He is the author of The Institutionalization of UX with over 20 years of experience on setting up sustainable, mature UX practices. Please welcome your first presenter, Eric Schaffer.
So, thank you. So I thought this would be a good opportunity to give a little perspective as we enter a world which is really enabled by artificial intelligence. And with all those years, I've seen a lot of cycles of stuff, and I think I can be helpful to give perspective and maybe guidance even on where you'll go with your career. I remember, we were in business. This is our website from 1996, when I didn't have gray hair. And I remember 1999, Google was like coming out with this incredibly different page. It just had a, a search field. And people met with me and said, we're really sad because you're out of business because the only interactions we're going to need is this Google thing. And now everything is going to be Google. And that wasn't true. If you think about it, if I told you you couldn't use a Google type search, you might be sad and you'd be mad at me. But think about how much of your day you spend doing Google searches. Tiny little amount, right? It's kind of the same with artificial intelligence for the same reason. So with artificial intelligence, if we think about it as just a chat dialogue, the user needs to come up with the question. Just like in Google, the user has to come up with a question. And that's hard to do. People don't like doing it. It's just ergonomically inefficient, except for certain tasks where people know what the question is. So we do have a world, and you will be designing stuff where you have that kind of AI, open chat, maybe voice and all of that. We've been doing that, but something we've discovered is that people would much rather just click on a button. So if we can show them the most likely choices, that's better than, and think about it just physically. Instead of typing out a sentence or a query, I just click one button. If I look at the AI thing, and it's funny because I remember working at Bell Labs in AI, and people were like, this is going to really change the world. And that was in the 70s, and it's been a while. But this wave that's happened, we're actually over the top of it. So there was a huge amount of buzz. You saw the stock market start to devalue AI at some level. And so we're in a different place now. We have to be very careful because we've been suffering from the I have a hammer syndrome. Like for the man who only has a hammer, everything looks like a nail. So people have been going around looking for applications for AI. And that isn't that good because AI is not the best tool for everything. Even more concerning is they've been looking for applications for AI using a chat dialogue. And while yes, that's a thing, just like Google is a thing, but the chat dialogue is not going to be our main focus. Embedded artificial intelligence will be. This is just some work I pulled that where we're looking at a workflow in handling legal service requests. And the green boxes all use AI. But I think there's only one or two places where there's an AI chat interface. Really, in almost every case, the AI sits behind the interface, and the user might not even know it's there. So I might be seeing a form, and people, if you think about it, the ergonomics of a form are really good, right? I can have my overall requirements laid out in front of me. I can see the context. I can see how things fit together. And the AI can fit behind that. So I get pre-filled data based on AI. When I put in my legal service request, it can immediately give me an approval. It can immediately route it to the right responsible professional based on a bunch of criteria. Okay. And it can pass it to that responsible professional with recommendations and a summary and all of that. I kind of wouldn't know AI was happening, but it is. And this is the kind of application of AI that we're going to spend 90% of our time with, I think. So when we're applying AI, the other thing that I want to say is the idea of just, hey, there's an application for AI. We can use AI to approve a credit card requests. We can use AI. If we're doing that, we're just hitting with a hammer, playing whack-a-mole, and then that's terrible too. So what do we want to do as we're applying AI in our environment? We want to know what we're trying to get to. This is an example from a bank. And a bank can go in and on a whack-a-mole basis, apply AI to an infinity of different little things. And each one might save some money. It might be incrementally a little bit good. But actually, I think that sucks. In this case, we're looking at technology, not just AI. And we're saying our purpose at the bank is not to apply AI in places and, save a little money, but to change our customers' experience so the mass market has the same experience as you would get in high net worth banking. So if you have a high net worth banker, they know you. A high net worth banker will know you, know your family, know what's going on. When they talk to you, they can hear in the tone of your voice, whether you're rushing and trying to get something done, or whether you want to chat about something, whether you want dialogue. So what you're able to do is, by understanding what's going on for the customer, and using AI to enable that conversation, you can know, hey, that person is having a difficult time now. I don't want to present an offer for something. It's not a seducible moment, but I want to just get that thing done. Or I know their next best action. I know that they'll be really interested in this kind of investment. I can even begin to customize the persuasion strategy. So as we think about how we're going to motivate customers to do a given thing, then I can use that AI knowing the context of the customer. So you're not necessarily a bank, and this is not correct for all banks. But the idea is that when I'm applying AI, I should know what journey I'm on. and this will bring it together. I also wanted to talk about AI in our UX work itself. And, our UX work goes through understanding the executive intent, the context, having a North Star, knowing how we differentiate as an organization, innovating, designing stuff, validating it. And in a way, AI is a daily tool that we use to help us do all that stuff. But I think for the UX professional, it's got a couple of interesting things. If I'm thinking about doing human-centered design, the heart and soul of it is understanding our user, our customer's ecosystem. Okay, I need to understand who are the users, what is their environment like, what are their tasks like? And doing that traditionally has been a very laborious thing. And yet, if you think about what makes an organization human-centered, knowing your customer is a big part of it. And that doesn't mean I've got a bunch of ex-customers who've now forgotten what it's like to be in the trenches, sitting in a room giving me advice. And those people usually super experts who don't get it. It means having a huge set of data, a huge set of research results that tell me about that. But it's expensive. And unfortunately, a lot of times it doesn't happen. That can be because the people I'm trying to uh, reach out to are difficult to get to. Try to get a CEO's time. Try to get a surgeon's time. Good luck, right? Or it may be just that my management isn't ready to spend the money to do the recruiting and the compensation, all of that. So you're tempted to do synthetic user research that's based on not talking to real users, but talking to AIs that are models of real users. Okay, that's just come on, we can't do that. And I remember thinking that's just ridiculous. And in that journey, I went and I pulled up a bunch of research we'd done looking at different things. And I thought the toughest research would be our PET research, persuasion, emotion, and trust, where we look to understand the emotional schema underlying making a decision. And so I pulled up things like this is making a decision to get a vaccine. And so we understood the drives, blocks, beliefs, and feelings around that. And this is based on a lot of painful, long research and analysis. And I put the query into the AI, and you know what? It got it pretty close. And I started to go, maybe pragmatically, this is something we ought to be thinking about. And yes, I know everybody goes, well, AI hallucinates. True. However, UX staff hallucinate also. So we have to look at it comparing an AI's data with the staff data. So we found that we can use AI to get a pretty good, at least baseline model for many different kinds of user scenarios and environments. Now, it depends, and I know Noah's been working on this a lot, that if you have a user who is from a population that's talking on Reddit a lot, and there's a lot of discussion on the topic, then the AI is going to know a lot. But if you're in a more obscure area, it may be a bit difficult, but still you can get something. You can get a beginning. So the synthetic users, if you construct them properly, and that's not a trivial thing. I mean, when you see personas are for amateurs. Um, Personas are the way we communicate to executives who we're working for, not the way that we design stuff. We need user profiles that give you all the detail and the distributions and all of that. But if you have a bad synthetic, it's just like our human bad personas, where it's like, there's Jane. Jane's 26 years old and has a cat, and I don't care. But if you have a good synthetic, it's pretty powerful. And you can understand the ecosystem, the task flow, and the emotion, right? So to get to the ecosystem data, we can do a bunch of different things. We can do desktop research, obviously, where we used to go and go to a library and then go search the net. Now that's really fast. We can create synthetic users that at least give us a baseline for understanding who our users are. We can also supplement that with research with real human participants. That's a great idea, particularly if the stakes are high. You should be doing that. But you can automate that research, and you'll hear more about that, that you can have the AI do the research work for you. And in all cases, the AI does an amazing job of summarizing stuff. It's funny, when I first started learning how to do interviews under Tamara Dembo at Clark University, Gestalt interviews, the way we would learn is we would do an interview, we would record it on reel-to-reel tape, and then we would transcribe with a manual typewriter the 100-odd pages and then go over it in detail. That's the way we learn to do interviews. And in a way that was good, but with AI, you can really cut that work down. And so it can be used even as an educational tool to help us learn to do better interviews. And then there's a whole field of user testing and validation also. So in our practice, we're going to start doing a lot of synthetic user stuff and AI enabled research. The other thing is we have to design the interfaces. I remember I created a breakthrough. I was at AT&T, and when we created user interfaces, we had a piece of paper with little squares on it, and you would write what the interface said. And then if you made a mistake, you had to get white tape and you'd put it over, and I started using a Wang word processor that would let us mock it up. And then we had Dan Bricklin's demo and all this. So creating screen designs has always been laborious. Recently, we created a full draft, not a couple of pages, but a 220-page business banking site. And the team did it in 8 days. Now, we had done a bunch of work for this client. We knew things about the North Star and all that, but we were able to get it to define user segments and structure and content. And for me, this changed the way that we can do our development work. And we've started working on a new process, and that process is basically hyper agile. So where we used to have to go and say, okay, we're going to make the main menu, we're going to make the top pages, and then we're going to test that and get that right, and then we're going to fill in the detail under it. Here, you can do a full prototype and then make small changes to it easily. And so your ability to get that design out is radically improved. There's a lot more to it, obviously. In wrapping up, I started to think about what it is that we need to be good at as we are UX practitioners in the future. Will there even be UX practitioners in the future? And I made this thought experiment. So I can go to the AI and I can say, what is an easy and profitable business I could start as an MBA living here in Fairfield, Iowa? And it gave a whole list. Huh. You need to go to that list and pick one. And I'm not sure I'd want the AI to do that. That has to be picked based on an understanding of the overall environment and what I want to do and my personal mission. There's so much. You have to have the wisdom to pick the right one. Once you pick the right one, you can go in and say, well, for that kind of business, what are the users? And it gives a long list of users. And I can go in, and we know that when you do that, I know I have many meetings with clients and they go, yeah, this thing is built so that everyone can use it yet. And that means they're not thinking about it yet. But you can go in, you could pick one thing like, well, I'm going to have goods for corporate or event gift buyers. I have to pick the right one or set of them. They have to fit together. I can then say, well, what are the types of corporate or event gift buyers? And it gives me a long list. I have to pick which ones I want to focus on. And I want to then get that ecosystem model and understand that user, at least with synthetics, if not more deep research, if I look at this as important. Then I can go, well, what would the online functions be that would be needed by that kind of user? I was really shocked by that because I remember we were working for one of the largest office supply companies decades ago. And we did the research and we came back to them. We said, we found out something amazing. And that's that your customers don't do what you have now, which is go find a product and pick the SKU and then order it. They reorder stuff. Most of their time is reordering things, build the interface to support that. And the AI comes up with that instantly. So it tells me what are the functions, and I can then figure out how to make the interface for that, and it'll take a shot at that, although I've found so far you need to do some work on that. And then I have to have the ability to make it differentiated, deal with persuasion. And that's something that I haven't seen the AI doing. And honestly, if you just have AIs doing it, then I'm not sure what your differentiation is going to be. It's kind of all the same. And then you have to validate it. Huh. So then to do these kinds of things in your career, you're going to need to develop not just the ability to sling Figma or think about interface mechanisms, but you have to know the context. You have to have the wisdom to make good decisions. You have to know how to go about what is your methodology for doing this kind of work. What are the right questions, right, for the interface, for the AI? And then I have to discriminate whether that's a good idea, which thing I want to pick. And I need to, in a sense, become the differentiator so that my business is not just, well, what the AI spits out, but I can have something even more advanced. So we're being asked, and for those of you who have CUAs, it's the CXA stuff, the advanced innovation strategy persuasion that's going to make that kind of differentiation. This is what we're going to be asked to do, I think. All right, I'll stop here. I'll ask questions. Those of you who'd like to chat more about these things, If you email me, it may not get to me because I have a bunch of filtering things. But if you just mail j@humanfactors.com, he'll answer questions. All right, Noah.
Thanks, Eric.
Yeah.
So guys, put questions you have into the Q&A box. And if there are questions you like there, then upvote them. Although right now we are waiting for questions. I think throughout that, everyone has been waiting with, listening intently to what Eric was saying. We do have one question now. Let's see. All right. Bo Wang asks, question for Eric. A lot of UX researchers cast doubt on synthetic users because they aren't real and filled with errors and biases, frankly, outdated information. Why would you feel excited about the speed rather than the accuracy and ethical aspects?
So I want to hold ethics for a second. That's a great question. And you'll see a lot of stuff that Apollo and I have published on the ethics of AI. So I'm going to defer that one. So I'm in the business of doing UX work, and I've been in the business forever, which means that I care about speed and cost. I care about being practical. If I can get something done and it's good enough, in many cases, that means that my client, the managers, will be inspired to do more, right? I know organizations where for like a decade, they'll have UX people there and they never do any research. If I can do something, that's better than nothing. So is it perfect? No. But when you do research, it's not perfect either. The research participants have old information. The research participants lie to you because they want to get your approval, because they're not even real participants. They're lying about being participants to get the money for doing it. So, yeah, synthetics are not perfect. Absolutely. But I think we're foolish as an industry if we don't incorporate them into our design practice, at least as a baseline. And then I can go, I've understood this from the synthetic, and now I'm doing research with humans that I can use to improve my understanding.
All right, we have a bunch of new questions. So a reminder to upvote questions you'd like to hear, guys. There's 4 of them so far. We have time for 1 or 2 more. Let's see. I think maybe this is worth a correction. It's just this is chronologically without the upvotes. Farah Kadri, probably pronouncing that wrong. Farah asks, so in summary, are you saying to use AI to help to build synthetic profiles? Is that the summary of your presentation?
Well, the presentation was a lot more, but there is a part where I'm saying, yes, I think that our ability to do good UX work is very dependent on understanding our target users' ecosystem. And using AI to get at least a baseline of that makes a lot of sense because it's at least faster and cheaper. Now, yeah, if I can, I want to do faster, cheaper, better. And so I can then use AI to get research done with real humans even, or maybe I go out in the field and do that hard work. But there's a journey to do, and AI can help.
Let's see, Eric, have you heard of vibe coding? One of the questions is on that. Yes, no, have you heard of that?
What?
Have you heard of vibe coding?
No.
No. Okay, it's hard to answer a question without more detail on it. I don't know, taking these sort of at random. Let's see. So, oh, what just? Okay, sorry. Diago Aguas asks, do you think that in the future we'll reach a point where every UI screen is going to be generated real time by AI, according to a previous visual matrix design by the UX designer slash researcher?
Eh, no, but we will have uh more cases where the screen is, at least in content, customized um, for the user based on the context by the AI. I don't know if you remember, see, old guys useful around. So there was a lot of work done with drop-down menus, a lot. And one of the things that was experimented with is resequencing the menus based on what people were doing. So the frequent things were at the top. And it turns out that's generally a really bad idea because people learn what the menu structure is. They learn the sequence mostly by spatial position. And when you mess with it, you're screwing things up. So, yeah, nah, it's not going to be quite like that.
All right, so we are at the end of time. Guys, please give a big round of applause to Eric. You can use the little emote. Thank you, Eric. It was lovely. We'll move on to the next speaker. I will have to clear out all the questions, unfortunately. I see some people have raised hands. I'm going to have to lower those hands too. I'm guessing maybe those were various kind of applause indicators. If you have questions, remember to put them in the Q&A box, not in the chat box, and not by raising hands. All
All
right,
right.
thanks so much, Eric.